Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Orient Bell Limited Q2 FY22 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Rishabh Das from Pareto Capital. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rishabh Das from Pareto Capital. We represent investor relations for Orient Bell. On behalf of Orient Bell, I welcome you all to our Q2 and H1 FY22 earnings conference call. I have with me from the management, Mr. Aditya Gupta, Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Himanshu Jindal, Chief Financial Officer. We will have brief opening remarks from the management, followed by the Q&A session. Please note that certain statements made during this call may be forward-looking in nature. Such forward-looking statements are subject to certain risks and uncertainties that could cause our actual results or projections to differ materially from these statements. Orient Bell Limited will not be in any way responsible for any action taken based on such statements and undertakes no obligation to publicly update these forward-looking statements to reflect subsequent events or circumstances. I will now hand over the call to Mr. Gupta for his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Rishabh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Quarter 2 FY22 earnings call. Joining me on the call is Mr. Himanshu Jindal, our CFO. And you already heard from the Pareto Capital team, who are our investor relations advisor. Home construction and home improvement has gathered momentum, and the good pull from retail counters has been a sweet surprise in Quarter 2. We foresee a consistent improvement in the demand scenario during H2. Demand revival coupled with supply disruptions from Morbi is bringing back pricing power of organized players, which is good for us. Our strategy around the four pillars, people, distribution, product, and digital, coupled with a very strong effort on receivable management, has helped us to grow strongly across all business KPIs, be it top line, average selling price, working capital cycle, and of course profitability. We continue to invest aggressively in building brand with a focus on digital. We have made twice the investments in Quarter 2 versus last year Quarter 2, and also almost double of what we invested in Quarter 1 of this financial year. Some highlights from Quarter 2. Distribution is expanding. We have added 128 new channel partners during Quarter 2. This is in addition to the 450 plus channel partners added in the preceding 5 quarters. On product side, our portfolio premiumization strategy continues strongly. We have added 800 by 1600 millimeter GVT slabs this quarter, in addition to the 800 by 2400 millimeter slabs we introduced in Quarter 1. We have also introduced high depth, elevation, and pavers in Quarter 2. The total new product categories launched since FY21 now stands at 8. These 8 categories have contributed 18% of our top line during Quarter 2 this year. Compare this with 12% contribution in Quarter 1 and 7% in the last financial year. The increasing salience of these categories is proof that our research-based solutions approach to product development and design is working. This is also helping us drive distribution expansion, which I talked about earlier. Ours is a design industry and the customer wants to see the product before buying. We have a unique online come offline model to showcase our designs. The chain of physical stores, OVTV as we call them, is getting bigger. We added 11 more OVTVs in this quarter, taking our total to 249. We had 23 new OVTV opening. We closed down 12 OVTVs which are not performing well. So the net add is 11 number. Our website is increasingly becoming the gateway to our product portfolio. The organic traffic on our website has doubled in Q2. OBL always features in the top 3 ranks on Google keyword searches for tiles. And in a very unique integration of online and offline initiatives, we are generating customer footfall for the physical stores through our digital initiatives. This is one big reason why we are able to launch new OVTVs at this blistering pace of almost one new OVTV in every 3 days of Q2. Given the growing demand for our products and our 90% plus capacity utilizations in Q2, we are now committing more investments to further build scale. The first round of investments that our board had approved in the last 12 months was at Secunderabad for catering to north and east markets. We have now decided to revamp our plants at Dora and Hoskote to participate in the bigger and higher growth markets of south and west, where traditionally OBL has had a smaller share of the pie. With this, I request our CFO, Himanshu Jindal, for the funders. Over to you, Himanshu.
Thanks, Aditya, and good afternoon all. So after a subdued Q1, happy to share that we are back in green. We were able to grow our volumes by 22% YOY, and our prices too moved up by 6% on a YOY basis, and also sequentially by 2%, helping us in the scale up. Our revenues for the quarter grew 29% YOY. Significant and consistent cost escalation across all cost elements is something that is a reality, and this did have an impact on our margins. Some bit of this was though neutralized via the further optimization of our consumption KPIs, the better product mix. The vitrified sales is now higher by 3% on a YOY basis, and also price increases. So far in this financial year, we've had 3 rounds of price increases. For our own manufacturing, we've increased prices by 3% in April, followed by another hike of similar quantum early September. On the traded products as well, post the gas price hike in Q2, we took a price increase of around 6% in September. Again, with the prices going up further this month, which is October, we have taken another price increase of around 6-7%. We also had all our lines producing 100% in Q2, with the exception of MP1, a plant which is going through an upgrade at the moment. This thus added to the joy in terms of fixed cost absorption. With all of this, EBITDA for Q2 was close to 16 crores, which is 9.5% margins. In fact, better than what we had same period last year. On the consolidated part, this also increased more than 2 times for us versus what we had in Q2 last year. Working capital, it continues to be healthy. Our core cash conversion cycle continues to be less than 20, and our balance sheet continues to stay strong. So we are still having a net cash of 15 crores as on 30th September 2021. On the ongoing capex projects, there are 2 which are running right now. One is the modernization of our wall tile plant, MP1 at Secunderabad, which should add 0.7 million square meters of capacity. This should get completed sometime within this quarter. There's also this project that was approved by the board in July, which is the debottlenecking of our existing GVT line at Secunderabad, MF4, and which should add another 0.7 million square meters of capacity. This is expected to go live by early FY23. Also, as Aditya mentioned, we are now putting more money on capex to drive our ambitions on scale up. This time the money is for South and West, which presently contributes only 30% to our total revenues. The total investments for modernizing both Dora, which is the conversion of the ceramic to vitrified line, and also line 1 at Hoscourt, would be approximately 42 crores, and we expect incremental volumes of another 3 million square meters per annum from these facilities post the initial ramp-up. We continue, like I said, we continue to remain cash positive, and most of this capex should be funded via our own internal accruals. I think we can now request the moderator to open the lines for Q&A.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rohit from Samatva Investments. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. So first of all, I would like to congratulate you on the transition that the company has undertaken in the last 2 to 3 years versus the initial expectations, and it's clearly visible in the numbers. Just based on that, I wanted to ask, are there any expectations that you guys had put in, and you feel some areas where the company has fallen short, and the processes that you guys are taking to reach those goals? Any examples or any benchmarks that you guys are seeing?
Thanks, Rohit. Now, I think there's always scope for improvement, and you're right, in the last 2.5 to 3 years, we have made a lot of very consistent all-round improvement in our KPIs. And this is not just about top-line growth. I think if you go deeper into our financials, you will see that each and every line item is far more robust than what it was, say, 2 to 3 years back. And this journey continues. In terms of improvement areas, yes, there are certain improvement areas that we are continuously working on. One is our product profile, as I mentioned, not just the vitrified versus ceramic ratio, which is an outcome, but in terms of coming out with new products which service a particular customer need. So a lot of work happening on the product side. A lot of work which we need to do to strengthen our own manufacturing, which is what all these capex announcements and projects have been about in the last, say, 5-6 quarters. Distribution expansion is another very big focus area for us. And building up our brand Oriental is, as I mentioned earlier, we have doubled our investment, so that continues to be a focus area and will continue to. So these 4 or 5 will be our focus areas for the next few years.
Fair enough, sir. Thank you. So my second question is pertaining to the tile manufacturers in Morbi. Right now in August and September, few days, around 30 days, many of the plants were shut in spite of strong demand in the domestic market. I just wanted to know what do you feel the reasons why strong demand in the domestic market? Morbi guys are coming back in the focus to the export market.
Lloyd, I lost you in between. I will try to answer what I could take from your question. So yes, you are absolutely correct. The Morbi vendors had shutdowns during Q2. Various associations, the Volatile Association decided to stop their plants in September. The Double Charge and Nano associations had stopped in the month of August. So we had these stoppages and all. The reason was that because of the container tariff or container freight increasing many fold, export dispatches were not happening, and the vendors believed that by shutting down for a month, they would be able to correct the demand and supply situation. So that is why it did shut down. And in terms of exports, I think the freight rates have now stabilized, and export volumes have started moving again, though not as high as before, say 3 months, 6 months before. On the other hand, the export orders which Morbi has are very much intact. I believe they are also getting new orders. It is just that the execution of these orders is getting delayed while they wait for a more favorable freight situation.
Okay. So is it good to understand that at this point of time, the Morbi guys are not focusing that much on the domestic market in spite of decent demand, and organized players like you are, getting a bigger market share? Is that a fair assumption?
See, Rohit, to answer you differently, this is Himanshu Jindal, by the way.
Yeah.
What we need to understand is there is a very clear structural shift in the way Morbi works today versus what it was in the past. Or let me say the industry works today versus what we had traditionally in this industry. Yeah. So there was a cluster which was operating very aggressively on pricing, on credits, supported by whatever they were doing in terms of tax compliances, some of them for sure, and also because of the non-green, non-clean, let me say non-tax compliant fuel. Yeah. So this was what was aiding price and credit aggressiveness from these players onto the domestic market. This is how they were building scale for themselves, and a lot of us were getting impacted because of that. Now structurally, with the new things coming in play in the last 18-20 months, things have kind of eased out for us. It's become a more level playing field. Yeah. So this is a structural shift, correct?
Yeah.
You with me?
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
So this is what is helping organized play in general to pick up more market share, and this I believe will be permanent. Gas pricing is something which is which can be, today we are at an advantage to Morbi. We may not be at an advantage to Morbi in future. So this is something that we don't know. Yeah. But surely at the moment, even that is helping. Correct? So I think this is what is driving expansion for all of us. Our own initiatives are also helping us do better than what we expected, and what could have been possible under these circumstances.
Okay, great, sir. Thank you. Just one last question I had of your among your 250 OBTVs that you have. So give me some geographical mix, like what percentage is in the north, east, south, in the west. Some number that I could work.
So north for us is roughly 45% odd. Yeah. East would be close to 25. West is again is a small fraction, 5% today. South would be again 25. So that's the mix broadly.
Okay. Thank you, sir, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants to ask a question, please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Keshav Garg from PPIL. Please go ahead.
So just wanted to understand the pricing scenario in relation to the increasing gas prices. So have we taken enough price increase to set off the hike in gas prices, or some margin pressure quarter on quarter can be expected?
Okay, Keshav, Aditya here. Yes, gas prices have gone up aggressively, and for the first time I've seen that the gas pricing in Morbi is more than what we pay in our own units. As I said earlier in my opening address, we feel that pricing power is now coming back to the organized players, especially in light of the other reasons which structural changes which Himanshu spoke about. So, short answer to your question would be that we have passed on all the input cost increases in the market, and we have not allowed them to impact our margins at all. We expect in the future also to be able to pass on any cost push to the consumer.
So that is very reassuring. And so now barring any COVID third wave, so what performance we did in the last quarter in Q2, sir, was there some pent-up demand, from Q1 also that is in Q2 numbers, or can we expect the Q2 numbers to be the new base going forward, barring any COVID third wave?
So Keshav, that's a bit of crystal gazing. Yes, definitely there was some demand of quarter one which got pushed into quarter two. In terms of, I think, a lot of projects and all, the smaller size projects and all, which typically take 2, 3, 4 months to finish, they had been hampered, and a lot of them went for completion in quarter two. So definitely there was this tailwind which helped the industry in quarter two. Your question about whether quarter two will be the baseline for quarter three, I think relevant to remember that quarter two is seasonally a dull quarter for building and construction industry. Quarter three and quarter four are bigger quarters. Historically, you will find that H1 and H2 breakup in the tiles industry is say around 43-44% is H1 and say about 56% is H2. And so H2 should be a bigger business than definitely quarter one baseline.
Sir, so basically, sir, going forward, sir, do we have the capacity to clock a quarterly run rate of 200 crore top line?
Yes. Also, Keshav, remember, one thing which structurally sets us apart from the other the organized players is that about 65-66% of our sales is through our own units. Another almost 25% plus is through our JVs. So we have 90% plus of our manufacturing coming in from our own units. Our dependence on Morbi is say 9-10% only. So yes, we have enough spare capacities, and also because we maintain good amounts of finished goods stock, we are well positioned to participate in the market growth.
And just to add to what Aditya mentioned, Keshav, you are aware of the capex that we are bringing in. Yeah, there are 2 capex which are already ongoing. There are 2 more that we have announced. So some of that would definitely happen between now till, let's say, 31st March, which would be available for sale as well. So yes, we are kind of assured that we have enough to be able to handle the demand which comes in.
So thank you very much and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vikas Kasturi from Focus Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Sir, so I'm pretty new to the tile industry, so please forgive me if my questions are a little layman-like. Sir, could you please tell me a little more about your make versus buy strategy? Do you, right at the beginning of the year, do you take this call, or do you take a call depending upon the demand situation? And a related question is, you just said, sir.
Vikas, one second. Did not get your first question. Can you just repeat that?
Yes, sir. Sir, I was asking your make versus buy strategy, in the sense that you make 90% of your tiles and 10% you buy from Morbi. So this mix 90-10 that you mentioned, do you take it right upfront at the beginning of the year, or as the demand progresses, you take a call, sir?
So Vikas, we manufacture a very large number of tiles in terms of the size of the tile, in terms of vitrified versus non-vitrified, in terms of the use of that tile, whether it is going in on the wall, whether it is going in a parking space or in a heavy duty, say, public place. So different types of tiles depending on the customer needs are being manufactured. We have our own capacity. We know which are the tiles that we can manufacture in our own units, and typically that decides the make or buy decision. There are some categories, very few, where we feel it is better to not put in our own capex, and these we outsource from Morbi through trading. So in some ways it's kind of fixed. It doesn't change dramatically. For example, we talked about say 2 new categories of slabs which we have introduced in H1. Now, because these are new categories, we have started off with trading by buying through Morbi. And as things develop, we will see as time goes on whether we would want to start manufacturing them ourselves, or we would like to continue with trading.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That was very helpful. A related question, sir. How are the margins for the tiles that you manufacture versus the tiles that you outsource from Morbi?
So because obviously we have our own capex supporting own manufacturing, which means there is additional depreciation, interest, etc. that we have as costs. Yeah. So margins are obviously not comparable with trading, but whatever trading earns is the delta. Yeah, it's pure contribution which comes in. So if trading goes up without cannibalizing own manufacturing, it's always a joy.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Another question related to this. Sir, in your slide 5, right, you've given a very nice graphical depiction of the ASPs of trading versus your own. And you've given a hybrid number as well, which is around 254. Sir, what would take for you to increase this hybrid, say closer to something like 257, 258? So what would need to happen for that to take place, sir?
So Vikas, mix of things. I talked about product premiumization. So selling more of the premium tiles, selling more of vitrified, especially GVT and double charge, selling more of these slabs. Within the ceramic piece, selling more of the higher end tiles like pavers and all is what will push it up. And this is something which we have been doing. We have had a 6% increase in our average selling price from versus last year quarter 2. And we see this is also being helped, Vikas, by the price increases we are taking. So Himanshu talked about some price increases which have been taken in H1, and all of this goes into the ASP.
Okay. Great, sir. I'll just ask another question, if it's okay with the moderator. Sir, you have talked about enormously in your various interviews about what makes Oriental different. So, for example, you've talked about the digital initiatives, how customers can find what they're looking for using your apps. So, sir, just a question. So, if one of your competitors was to start on that journey, how long would it take for them to catch up or to be where you are today, sir? Would it take them about 2-3 years to get here?
Well, because we know that it has taken us 3 years to get where we are, and difficult question to answer. Let me see. I believe that it is more about anthropology than technology. What I mean by that is that the digital tools and technology are easier to develop and find, but what is the most difficult is getting your teams to actually use it, especially teams which have been selling tiles in a certain way for 20 years, 30 years. And for them to change over and start something new is extremely difficult, and sometimes also people feel very threatened and technologically challenged. We have been blessed in Oriental because the CXO team, almost all of them, starting with me, came in from very diverse background. None of us had tile experience, so we have taken a absolutely basics first kind of an approach to building up our business, and we never had the resistance to bring in technology. We have seen the benefits of technology in our previous organizations. Having said that, it has been and it continues to be a challenge to get the whole team actually use it. So the time that it would take our competitors to copy it would largely depend, I would say, on two things. One is the commitment and conviction of the top team, and secondly, how the team below, how entrenched they are in their ways of doing things. We could also change fast because we had not been winning in the market, so we had a reason to try something new. For somebody who has been winning in the marketplace, who has a certain large size of operation, I think it will be harder for them to accept the need for change.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the detailed answers. That's it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Apurva Mehta from EM Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir, congratulations on great set of numbers. Sir, just wanted to ask on this brand building, we have doubled our spend. So exactly where are we spending, and what kind of benefits we can see going ahead? What are you envisaging on this brand building?
Apurva, Himanshu this side. So yes, we have been spending, much higher than what we were spending, let's say last year or even sequentially, even in the best of the quarters. So that spend is going up very clearly. So whatever we do directly, indirectly, whether in terms of supporting our COCOs, in terms of sampling, all of that put together, including the digital spins that we do. I think we are now touching direct, indirect, all put together around 4% of our revenues. Direct would be a little over 2% of what we do.
And on the mix between institutional and retail, how is this quarter be?
Okay, so Purva, Aditya here.
Yeah.
So we have, I think this question comes up every time, so I'll give you a slightly more detailed answer than we have given in the past.
Yeah.
So we have a direct enterprise team, Apurva, which goes after named accounts. These are large builders, multi-crore businesses, and these large enterprises contribute about 10% of our top line. Then we also deal, the balance 90% is what we sell through our channel partners and our dealer network. Out of this, now these channel partners also do projects which might be small to mid-size kind of projects, you know. Okay. Starting from say 1,000 meter to might go up to 5,000, 6,000 meters and all. Okay. Now we very actively track this part of the business also. Okay. And about a third of the 90% which the dealer sells is also to a project. It might be a small contractor, it might be a mid-sized contractor, you know.
Okay. So more or less it would be 60-40. 60 would be retail, 40 would be kind of thing.
Yeah, you got the numbers right. But you know, it's one caveat here, Apurva, because you know, every company in our industry measures this number in a very different way. There is no common guideline or logic which is used across companies. So that is why I've kind of given you a detailed breakdown of this. Yeah. So that you know, when you kind of compare this number with say our competitors, in case they have, and I'm sure they do have a different methodology of calculating and capturing this, you can then get to a right conclusion.
But then over the period, this mix would change. We would be more towards retail, the real retail, and not towards project, or we don't mind selling to project also as long as we have the pricing power to sell it to anybody.
So Apurva, one of the reasons pricing power, yes, we have also gone back to all our projects and renegotiated our pricing in the last say 2-3 months. So yes, pricing power is much superior, much better than what it was in the past. Ultimately, it's also, Apurva, look at it this way, if you compare any category in the building and construction industry, you look at what has happened to steel in the last 5-6 months, you look at what has happened to cement pricing. So our price increases are extremely modest and extremely small when you compare to those 50, 60, 70% kind of price increases which you have seen in other materials, raw materials which go into building and construction. So our customers also understand that what is happening. On your second question on where do I see this growing? I think the retail piece, which is 90% of the business, I sensed that will keep growing fast. The enterprise business is slightly trickier to answer because we also tend to say no to a lot of enterprise business basis the payment record of the customer and basis the kind of price which we are getting. So difficult for me to kind of answer in terms of what growth we can expect there.
So now on another question, you know, where now Morbi is becoming a little costlier than what, you know, originally we were struggling against Morbi. Now we are cheaper because of gas prices against Morbi. So are we going to push more sales or we'll have higher margins? What are our plans to do on that front?
No, top line is the number one
Okay.
criterion. It's top line in a sustainable manner so that we can get sufficient margins to take care of our growth ambitions for the next 3 to 5 years. But the stage, Apurva, we are in, if you have followed OBL for the last 3 years, you would have seen how drastically we have cut down our operating costs over the last 3 years. You would have seen how our inventories, both in finished goods and raw materials, have been slashed from what they were 3 years back. So I clearly believe that future growth in profitability is going to be driven by top line and not by cost efficiency projects. So we continue to keep doing that, but primary growth driver for us is going to be the top line. However, having said that, we do not plan to absorb any of the cost push. We plan to pass that on to the customer, and luckily for us, the industry is also doing something similar.
Anything which we can cut cost? Any places where we are seeing that these are the places where we can reduce cost and have more efficiencies, kind of thing, or this is an ongoing process?
So these are ongoing projects. Even now there are some at least 15 to 20 projects which say the manufacturing teams and all would be working on So this is an ongoing thing. New projects keep coming up, keep getting delivered. We have, for example, in H1, especially during Q1 when we had taken a shutdown when there was a lockdown, we had utilized that time to refurbish our kilns in Secunderabad so that they have become far more efficient in terms of power consumption and all. So these projects keep on happening. So it is not, when I say that top line is going to be our primary driver, it does not mean that cost is not important. But we will continue. We are doing many projects today, and we will continue to keep doing projects to keep control on costs.
Last 2 questions. On the export front, are we going to, a lot of people have started looking at exports. So are we in that thing? We are also planning to export? And the last question, another question is the market leader has guided second half to grow by 20% vis-a-vis second half previous year. So what is your take on that?
So Apurva, on the export side, our own plants are all landlocked, and so we have a disadvantage on freight in terms of exports if we utilize our own plants. If we source material tiles from Morbi for export, then it is a very low margin business.
Yeah, okay.
So we don't see export being a major driver for our top line growth in the near future. Though we have some export volumes, but not a major focus area for us. That's point number 1. Point number 2, Apurva, you talked about the market leaders' projections. It has been our policy not to give any projections, forward-looking projections on numbers on top line and this thing. We'll stick to that.
But any kind of guidance kind of thing, like we will also some kind of thing that you are looking. How are you looking basically? That is the demand robust and such things that this can happen or something like that.
So Apurva, that's like kind of asking the same question in a different way. But, so I said that in my opening statement that we expect demand to be robust in H2. We also expect that the structural changes which Himanshu spoke about are going to get stronger and in favor of organized players. For example, I was just seeing Gujarat Gas results announced today. I think 20% growth in revenues in Q2, but their margin has shrunk from 20% to about 10%.
Yes.
So, which basically means that there is a strong reason for Gujarat Gas to further increase gas pricing. If that happens, it has two impacts. One, Morbi cost of manufacturing goes up. So that is clearly one thing, one structural change. The other structural change which happens is that the contribution of gas to the total tile manufacturing cost of a Morbi vendor, it has already climbed up drastically in the last, say, 2-3 months. It will further climb up, which basically has implications on somebody who might be wanting to play around with tax compliances, because suddenly you have to give a very large percentage, you have to pay for a very large percentage of your input cost through normal official banking channels, and that has an impact on your compliance status also. So I see a lot of very positive structural changes underway, which will be to the benefit of organized players.
Okay. Thanks a lot, and yeah, wish you all the best. Yeah.
Thanks, Apurva.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Devanshu Sampat from Yes Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello sir, good afternoon. So just two questions from my end. So can you provide some sense on our expectations on return on capital employed and the roadmap for the same from a 2-3 year perspective? Would it be fair to assume that all the efficiencies that can come in from the denominator, which is your capital employed, have been done so far, and now it would largely depend on top line growth and leverage and margin expansion to drive the same?
So Devanshu, capital, so I whatever capex that we have announced very clearly shows what we are trying to do. We are trying to be as capital efficient as possible. So there is a, between now or let me say 1 year, in the last 1 year, all these 5 projects that we are doing, the cost of me adding capacities is between 10-15 crores per MSM. So that should define how we are looking at things. We are debottlenecking, we are upgrading our plants, becoming more and more efficient. All of this should definitely also have a play in my margins at some point in time, right? So it's all scale which is coming in at very little incremental fixed cost. Yeah. So I think automatically things will happen. Now how much in 2-3 years is something that very clearly is not something that we can guide at the moment. But yes, efficiencies and scale will help drive margins.
Devanshu, if you kind of go back, say to the last 5, 6, 7 years, maybe even 10 years, we had made a substantial capex of about 55 odd crores which was capitalized in FY19. That was, I think, the biggest capex which the company had made. I think that was bigger than the capex which company had made maybe cumulatively for some 3, 4, 5 years before FY19. Now, in FY21 and FY22, we have undertaken capexes, one which was announced yesterday, I think totaling up to about 65 to 70 crores of capex. So clearly there, and most of this capex is by most, I think almost all of this capex is from internal accruals. So clearly there is a drive to modernize our manufacturing capabilities, to increase our manufacturing capabilities, not just in terms of million square meter or capacity, but also in terms of the kind of tiles that we can make in these facilities of ours.
Maybe I can add one more thing, Devanshu. Even from a working capital perspective, when we talk about capital is inclusive of everything, right? I mean, working capital per se for us has been a very sweet spot. We were operating close to 70, 80 days, let's say some 3 years back. Today we operate consistently for last 4, 5, 6 quarters. We've been operating at around 15, 20 days, not more. So that explains, how efficient we are becoming in terms of utilization of the capital which is available. And that explains why our debt has gone down and we are now net cash. So I think, we are taking our calls based on capital efficiency, based on what incremental top line, bottom line will come. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, huh?
Sure, sir. I mean, no doubt the working capital improvement, which has been drastic, is quite obvious. So, which is why I was asking you, right, about whether it will be largely the numerator-driven expansion, or will it be, if there's any more space if there's any more room in terms of contracting the capital employed. But fair enough. I get your point. And the second question that I have is, if the management is thinking about entering adjacent or non-tile categories, as is the trend in the industry, over the next few years. So are we thinking about that? And if so, will it be like an organic, inorganic route, or would we be looking at leveraging the Oriental brand, or look at something else? Your thoughts on this, please?
Devanshu, we believe that tiles is an extremely attractive segment to be in, and we know tiles. We have a 45 years experience in manufacturing and selling tiles. So for the time being, we are not looking at any adjacencies. Maybe a few years down the line, it could definitely be a possibility. But today we are focusing all our resources and our energies on growing the tile business.
Sure, fair enough. Thank you very much, and wishing the team a very happy Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you, Devanshu. Very happy Diwali to you also.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pratik Poddar, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Sir, hi. Sir, can you just talk a bit about your your medium-term aspirations for product mix? Where do you see this? I think you are at 40-60, right? Roughly as of quarter 4 FY21 end. If you can just talk about where will we see this in the next 2 to 3 years heading?
Projects versus, okay, fine.
Ceramic and Mitchfit.
Ceramic and Mitchfit, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Hi, Pratik, good afternoon. So, Pratik, we have been increasing our vitrified share. I think it's about 3% more than what it used to be. And we expect that this trend will continue. We will be, I think, we expect that every year we will gain a bit more on vitrified salience versus ceramics. Having said that, there's another thing which we have been doing successfully for the last couple of years, which is that we are taking out we are removing our focus from the lower end of the ceramic tiles and putting our energies into the higher end ceramic tiles. For example, one of the most popular vitrified tile in the industry is what is called a PVT tile or a nano tile. And we sell a very large quantity of ceramic tiles which are at a huge premium, maybe 30-40% premium to this vitrified tile.
Wow.
So rather than going for ceramic versus vitrified that much, while a vitrified will keep on increasing, I think the bigger focus area for the company is to build up the average selling price.
Got it. So then, sir, over a medium term, how should I think about your average selling price inching up in the medium term? And consequently, I'm assuming that the more higher the average selling price, higher the margin. So today you are at 50% discount to, let's say, the market leader in terms of margin. Over a next 2-3 year period, how much of this gap can you converge with your strategy of premiumizing your portfolio and increasing ASPs?
Okay, Pratik. So we don't watch our competitors as closely, frankly. And so I would answer your question slightly differently. I would not talk about the gap per se, because I don't know what the competitors are planning to do and how their ASPs would change. But we have definitely, as I said, we have grown our ASPs by about 6% quarter on quarter. And we are clearly seeing, if I break up this number, Pratik, within the quarter 2 also, I would say that my September ASP was better than my August ASP, and August ASP was better than my July ASP. So we are seeing a consistent month-on-month improvement in this KPI, and I think that's what is really important. You see, yeah, thanks.
No, I understood. So all I was asking is, when you say price increase, it is like for like, excluding the price increases of gas costs, which was excluding input cost inflation, right? That is the way you are looking at average selling prices.
So, no. So average selling price is the price per meter square of tile that we are selling. Let me answer your question. It is a very valid question. So what I understood you want to know is that whether the ASP increase has been led by how much of it is because of the price increase and how much of that is because of the product portfolio change. Is that the question, Pratik?
Yeah. Because that's what your KPI is, right? You are ideally trying to change your product mix so as to improve margins.
So Pratik, about 60 to 65% of the ASP increase is because of product portfolio change, and about 30-35% is because of the price increases that we have taken.
Got it. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, Pratik.
Thank you. Participants who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as there are no further questions, I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Okay, so thanks all for your time and for your patience in OBL. If there are any more questions, feel free to approach us directly or reach out to Pareto. Happy Diwali to you all in advance. Thanks from Team OBL here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of Oriental Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.